Brazil's interim president is chasing constitutional reform, and in Argentina, workers' unions are protesting against the president's veto. Those are our headlines. My name is Reagan Des Vignes, and this is From the South. Thank you so much for being here with us. Brazil's Senate-imposed President Michel Temer is seeking a constitutional amendment that would allow for the government to slash public funding and cost expenditure increases before paying debts. The interim president announced that he will push for a constitutional reform that would also allow the privatization of state assets. Consulted about the ongoing protests against his government, Temer said he would disregard them and accused protesters of psychologically abusing him. Pulitzer Prize winner Glenn Greenwald has urged that media outlets call the situation in Brazil a coup. The renowned journalist and his website, The Intercept, were responsible for leaking an audio in which Temer's inner circle plots to oust President Dilma Rousseff to avoid corruption investigations from continuing. Greenwald has criticized Western mainstream media outlets for failing to depict the situation as a coup. And the protest action against the coup continues. People across the country continue to organize demonstrations to call for Temer's resignation. The protesters also carried banners criticizing the coverage of the largest media group there, Globo, which has consistently attacked the Workers' Party governments led by former President Lula da Silva and Dilma Rousseff. Argentina's largest workers' union is protesting President Mauricio Macri's decision to veto a new law which would halt layoffs. Since Macri came to power, over 140,000 people have lost their jobs. With record inflation rates, unions have requested a stop to layoffs for months. The law was passed by an overwhelming majority in both the Parliament and the Senate. However, Macri is accusing the opposition of creating a false alarm. And President Macri is promoting his foreign minister, Susana Marcoro, to head the United Nations. The Argentine president says he will work with allied countries such as Brazil to make Marcoro the next UN Secretary General, replacing Ban Ki-moon. However, experts in international relations believe the move is likely to fail since Marcoro is little known and too close to the United States. Ecuador's President Rafael Correa gave his last State of the Nation address. Correa thanked Ecuadorians for the aid received after April's 7.8 magnitude earthquake in an impassioned speech. Ministers and authorities highlighted the progress made since Correa's first term began in 2006. General elections are set to take place next year. However, campaigning has not yet begun. A mass grave was found in the town of Tetelcingo in the state of Morelos, containing 150 bodies. Experts estimate that the grave is about 2 years old. Authorities are slowly unearthing the remains to analyze the DNA and to compare it to lists of disappeared people. During Peña Nieto's government, over 10,000 people have been forcefully disappeared throughout the country. Human rights organizations are hoping that the discovery of the grave can help in investigations linked to disappearances. Colombian authorities have intensified the search for 3 more journalists who disappeared in the Santander province north of the country. The journalists, which now total 4, are suspected to have been victims of paramilitary groups operating in the area. Experts have pointed at the timing of the kidnappings, which seem to be coordinated with the possible announcement of a peace deal between the government and the FARC guerrillas, which is expected by May 25th. Hundreds of students, women and activists took to the streets of Tegucigalpa to demand an end to discrimination. The marchers, who also called for an end to rampant impunity, rejected discrimination and threats being faced by the LGBTI community in the country. A group of women who took part in the demonstrations chanted in favor of their right to abortion and were joined by the rest of the protesters. Meanwhile, the right-wing government of Juan Orlando Hernandez has not renewed licenses for 21 television stations, including the leading TV station Globo. The emblematic station has led investigations on corruption by President Hernandez's party and was the only commercial TV station to denounce the coup against President Manuel Zelaya back in 2009. Hondurans are protesting the closure of the signal, which they see as an attack on freedom of expression. Hundreds of women have marched throughout the Venezuelan capital to denounce the violent beating of a policewoman during last Wednesday's opposition protest. The march was called by the National Women's Union, Una Mujer, and brought together women's and feminist organizations from different regions of Venezuela. They also expressed support for the head of the Electoral Council, Tibisay Lucena, and other senior women officials who they say have been subjected to sexist insults by leaders of the opposition.
We're also supporting the head of the CNE and all Venezuelan women, and we are saying no to violence.
Students to all aggression against women. We will not accept machismo any longer. As revolutionary students, we cannot tolerate violence against women who are just standing up for their country. We women have a key role in ensuring stability, so we will call on all students to reject sexism. It's not acceptable.
Students in Chile briefly occupied the Moneda Presidential Palace to demand an education reform which will make higher public education free of charge. The demonstrations were swiftly removed by the police demonstrators. The protest comes a day after President Michel Temer announced a reform package which includes free education, which would be sent to Parliament next Monday. Bachelet made free education a campaign promise during elections back in 2013. Just one day after a bomb killed 45 army recruits in Yemen, another bomb was detonated near a university campus in the capital city of Sana'a. At least 2 people were killed in the explosion, which according to local authorities was detonated during an event commemorating the country's 1990 unification. Authorities expect the figure of casualties to rise. No terrorist group has yet claimed the attack. Iraqi forces have suffered heavy losses in the second day of an assault to retake the city of Fallujah from the Islamic State group. 15 soldiers were reportedly killed, and the UN is concerned about the some 50,000 residents still living in the city located just west of Baghdad. The Iraqi government says it is opening humanitarian corridors for civilians to flee the offensive. The debris from Egypt Air Flight MS-804 that crashed and killed all 66 people on board has been found. However, reports as to what caused the plane to crash have been conflicted. Earlier, a forensic official was quoted as saying that the remains were so small that a blast was the only logical explanation. However, Egypt's forensics chief has denied those reports. Western intelligence agencies have speculated that a bomb caused the airline to explode in midair. Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has warned the European Union that his country's parliament will block a deal reached with the EU on refugees if Turks do not gain visa-free access to the Schengen area. The EU says Turkey still needs to meet certain conditions, including changes to its terror laws. President Erdogan has also said that funds promised by the EU have not yet been released. Thousands of stranded refugees are being evacuated from the makeshift Idomeni camp on Greece's northern border with Macedonia. After refugees in the camp refused to move voluntarily, riot police arrived before dawn to relocate over 8,000 people from the country's largest refugee camp to new camps. The refugees fear that the new camps will take them further away from the possibility of entering the Central Europe through Macedonia. French finance officials have raided the Paris headquarters of U.S. internet giant Google as part of a tax fraud investigation. About 100 tax officials entered the offices early Tuesday morning. Google is being accused of owing $1.12 billion in unpaid taxes to French authorities. In an escalating dispute with the French government, a strike over new labor laws has spread to all of the country's 8 oil refineries. An estimated 20% of gas stations have either run dry or are low on supplies. Prime Minister Manuel Valls insisted that the labor laws would stand and that further pickets would be broken up. Police deployed water cannons to disperse protesters following an anti-austerity demonstration through the centre of Brussels. The clashes began once the official demonstration, which an estimated 50,000 people attended, had ended without incident. Trade unions organized the official protest in order to urge the government to upend planned labour reforms. The National Committee for Breaking the Siege held protests in support of the women's boat in Gaza anti-siege mission. Noharzine has more on this from Gaza.
The national body for breaking the siege, together with the women's movement and the Gaza Strip, organized Tuesday morning a sit-in at Gaza seaport to protest the Israeli blockade imposed on the coastal territory. Raja al-Halabi, the head of the women's movement, expressed her thanks on behalf of the Palestinian people to the Women's Boat to Gaza mission for their efforts to break the siege.
We want to live in freedom on this land. Firstly, we want to have our own seaport. Secondly, we tell the organizers of the Women's Boat to Gaza that we have got your message. Even if you're not being able to arrive in Gaza, at least you're trying to help us. We are fully aware that the Israelis could attack your boat just like they did with the Marmara ship previously.
The Freedom Flotilla Coalition launched on March the 8th the Women's Boat to Gaza project in an attempt to break the 10-year Israeli blockade imposed on the Gaza Strip and to also draw the attention of the world to the sufferings of Palestinian people in the impoverished territory. The FFC's 4th mission will set sail by mid-September, and it's planned to dock at several Mediterranean ports and to arrive to its last destination in Gaza on the 1st of October. The WBG is an international mission endorsed by renowned women's organizations across the world, such as the Coalition of Women for Peace in Israel and the Code Bank Women for Peace in the United States. The boats named Amal, Hope, and Zaytuna, Olive, will be sailed by an all-women crew. The Amal symbolizes the hope which will be brought to Gaza, and Zaytuna symbolizes the olive tree, which is considered the life tree in Palestine. Noharzine, teleSur's TV, Gaza.
FIFA's Deputy Secretary General Marcus Kartner has been fired effective immediately. This comes after the discovery of a secret bonus scheme that paid out undeclared millions of dollars to him from 2008 to 2014. The arrangement was only known to a small number of people. Two prestigious auction houses in New York are gearing up for their spring sale of Latin American art this week. First up is Sotheby's, which will be offering over 200 pieces with an estimated value of $100.5 million. The Christie's auction will include a rare Diego Rivera piece for sale. And that's all news this evening. For more on these and other stories, you can visit our website, telesurtv.net/English. You can also feel free to join us on Instagram, Facebook, and on Twitter. From all of us here at teleSur's English, my name is Reagan Des Vignes. Have a great night. Bye.